Hello and welcome to Once Upon a Dribble. Today we are going to be looking at the history of Christmas and the NBA. NBA Christmas Day games have been an annual tradition since the league's second season back in 1947. So today we're going to step in the NBA time machine and look at some of the best moments in NBA Yuletide lore. The first NBA game played on December 25th in 1947, just a year after the NBA's inception. The New York Knicks beat the Providence Steamrollers at Madison Square Garden 89-75. The NBA has historically dominated this holiday as they're the only major sports league to regularly schedule games on December 25th. Dr. Jack Ramsey, who coached the Portland Trailblazers from 1977 to 1986, said, "Christmas meant being at home with the family and having a game that we always won. That was a perfect Christmas to me." So let's go year by year through the decades, looking at some of the best moments. In the early days, regional proximity dictated most of the matchups. Teams would usually play their geographical rivals to cut down on holiday travel and to allow them to have more time with their families. In 1947, we saw our first Christmas Day games. Nothing crazy. As mentioned, the Knicks handled the lowly Providence Steamrollers, and the Washington Capitals blew out the St. Louis Bombers. But the marquee matchup of the day was between the Chicago Stags and Baltimore Bullets, a game that was also a blowout, an 87-70 Baltimore win. But we were underway. Fast forward 14 years, we have Wilt Chamberlain's Christmas Spectacle. One of the best individual games in the NBA's Christmas Day history came in 1961 when the 20-12 Warriors were rolling into MSG to take on the flailing Knicks. This ended up being a overtime thriller, and while the Philadelphia Warriors lost to the New York Knicks 136-135 in double overtime, Wilt Chamberlain scored 59 points on 23 of 44 shooting and grabbed an astounding 36 rebounds. And that's still a record for rebounds on Christmas Day, and was also an NBA single-game scoring record on Christmas for 23 years. In fact, that actually wasn't the only display of scoring prowess that day in 1961. A couple of states over at the Cincinnati Gardens in Ohio, the Stars shone bright in a 141-127 Laker victory over the Cincinnati Royals, where Hall of Famers showed out left and right. Big O Oscar Robertson had 40 points, 12 rebounds, and 17 assists, while Wayne Embry and Jack Twyman combined for 63 points themselves on 26 of 45 shooting, but it wasn't quite enough to overcome LA's star tandem of Elgin Baylor and Jerry West. Baylor went for 40 points while the logo Jerry had 31 as the Lakers improved to 28-9 on the season. Some other notable games from the era include Jerry West just a couple of years later in 1963 going for 47 points versus the Knicks. A few years later, Rick Barry went for 50 versus the Royals in 1966. And then Tiny Archibald also dished out 18 assists in a loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, a season in which Tiny Archibald led the league in both scoring and assists per game. 1984, we have Bernard King's record-breaking game. This Christmas Day matchup in the early 80s versus regional rivals New York and New Jersey seemed somewhat insignificant, as both teams were under 500, but we ended up getting a record-breaking show from one of the game's all-time scorers. Bernard went for 60 points, where he was 19 of 30 from the field and 22 of 26 from the free throw line. Despite the record-breaking performance, it wasn't enough to overcome the New Jersey Nets as the Knicks lost by 6 points. But where 1984 left the Knicks on the naughty list, they were on the nice list in 1985 as they submitted one of the biggest upsets in Christmas Day history. Rookie Patrick Ewing, behind 32 points and 11 rebounds, saw the New York Knicks rally from a 25-point deficit to defeat the Boston Celtics 113-104 in double overtime. Why is this such a big upset? Well, New York finished that season with just a 23-59 record, while Boston went 67-15 en route to winning the NBA championship. Patrick Ewing's December exploits continued in 1986 as he left coal in the stocking of Michael Jordan and the Bulls. Ewing's putback buzzer gave the Knicks an 86-85 win over Chicago in Jordan's first Christmas Day game, who scored 30 points himself. In 1995, the NBA upped the ante and put a finals rematch on the schedule. The Rockets swept the Magic in the 1995 finals, and they squared off on Christmas Day, where the Orlando Magic exacted some revenge, defeating the Houston Rockets 92-90. Shaquille O'Neal had 22 points, 18 rebounds, and 5 assists, while Houston's Akeem Olajuwon had 30 points, 12 boards, and 6 assists himself. In the 2000s, we get some iconic duels on Christmas Day. In 2003, Tracy McGrady, an established star, brought the struggling Magic to the spotlight versus a rookie LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. The two stars gifted us one of the best holiday duels ever, where LeBron went for 20 first-half points, while T-Mac went for 19. The Magic ended up pulling out the 113-101 overtime victory, as Tracy finished with 41 points, to LeBron's 34 points and 6 assists. Just a year later, we got perhaps the juiciest matchup of all. David Stern knew exactly what he was doing when he put the Miami Heat and the Los Angeles Lakers under the tree on Christmas morning. This was Shaq and Kobe's first head-to-head matchup since Shaq landed with the Heat before the season started, and he would best his old partner in crime. The game went down to the final seconds of overtime, as Kobe's three-pointer at the buzzer, a shot that would have won the game, misfired. Miami was off to a red-hot start to the 04-05 season, as the Lakers themselves were floating around 500. Shaq's 24 points and 11 boards pushed Miami to that 2-point overtime victory, overcoming Kobe's 40 points on 12 of 30 shooting. A few years later, in 2008, we got a couple of special things. First and foremost, we got the presence of a certain tradition that has been missing in recent years, which is Christmas jerseys. In 2008, it all began with a white snowflake around the logo on the front of teams' jerseys, the league also making an effort to feature teams with primarily red and green colors. In 2012, we got Big Color. The monochromatic color scheme formally introduced the holiday trend on the 65th anniversary of Christmas Day NBA games. In 2013, we got Big Logos. The large center logo was intended to be the look's focal point, but the sleeves ended up taking most of the attention. And although the uniforms were 26% lighter than the traditional NBA jersey, a lot of players claimed that the extra fabric on the sleeves affected their shooting. Overall, these were not received very well by NBA Twitter, Dallas Mavericks legend Dirk Nowitzki even airing his grievances. In 2014, for the first time in this trend, the back of the jersey was the standout feature. Players' first names were placed on a panel below their numbers for this edition's defining design. And then in 2015, we got the Christmas card edition. This year's jersey is inspired by greeting cards with seasonal script and cursive lettering. This design by far being the most beloved of the collection, and even continuing the year later in 2016. That was so popular, the festive font returned for the second and final season. Now jumping back to 2008, we had another iconic finals rematch that came down the chimney as the Lakers snapped the defending champion Boston Celtics' 19-game winning streak with a big 9-point victory. There were solid performances all around. Kobe, Pau Gasol, Kevin Garnett, and Paul Pierce each scoring over 20 points, but it was Phil Jackson who earned the spotlight, as this victory was his 1,000th win as an NBA head coach. In 2010, during his first Christmas Day game as a Miami Heat, LeBron James caroled to the triple-double tune of 27 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists in a 16-point win over LA. And this was the first time in 40 years in which a player recorded a triple-double on Christmas, as LeBron joined Oscar Robertson, John Havlicek, and Billy Cunningham. A year later, in 2011, reigning MVP Derrick Rose made a go-ahead shot with less than 5 seconds remaining, as the Bulls stunned the Lakers in 2011, a game that also doubled as NBA opening week as the league was coming out of a lockout. Chicago closed an 11-point deficit with less than 4 minutes left to shock the Laker faithful after Luol Deng blocked Kobe's potential game-winning shot at the horn. And finally, in 2016, we were handcrafted and delivered perhaps one of the greatest games in Yuletide history, another finals rematch, this one of the iconic 2016 finals that picked up right where that dramatic series left off. Down 14 points early in the fourth quarter in Cleveland, the Cavaliers rallied to defeat the Warriors 109-108. Kyrie making a go-ahead turnaround jump shot with 3.4 seconds left to spoil Kevin Durant's 36-point effort for Golden State. LeBron James led the Cavaliers with 31 points himself and 13 rebounds. The NBA on Christmas has become more than just a tradition. It's become a spectacle, special jerseys, iconic performances, a chance for the league to highlight its best teams and its premier players. Every year, they're the matchups that I look forward to the most, and I ask you, what are you most excited for this Christmas in the NBA? What matchups are you looking forward to? What players are you looking forward to seeing? And until next time, this is Once Upon a Dribble.